MSMEs accounted for a total of 14% of small businesses across the country, with the state growing at a CAGR of around 8.43% between 2015-16 and 2020-21 to reach nearly 18 trillion rupees. In this third episode of a special 5-part series, ET Now presents to you the State View Uttar Pradesh. In tonight's episode, we bring you a conversation with experts discussing how small businesses have propelled the growth of the state's economy. We decode the One District, One Product scheme, and also we're in discussion with entrepreneurs as we are in conversation with beneficiaries of the ODOP scheme.
ODOP एक बहुत अच्छी स्कीम है। एकमात्र जो उससे लाभ हुआ है वो ये हुआ है कि नगीना के आर्टिजन्स को सब्सिडी बेस पे लोन आसानी से मिला है।
माननीय मुख्यमंत्री के आदर्श कर कमलों के माध्यम से ओडीओपी योजना के तहत शुरुआत मिली और हमारे यहाँ के सभी उद्यमियों को उसका बेनिफिट मिला। आज हम लोगों को इस विषय में बताना नहीं पड़ता, लोग जानते हैं कि हाँ, कन्नौज एक ऐसा सिटी है जो यूपी के अंदर है जो इत्र का उत्पादन करता है।
Hello and welcome to ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow presents the State View Uttar Pradesh. I'm Sunanda Jayasseelan. We've been bringing you a series of high-level interviews and conversations focusing around some of the schemes, programs, and also all the conversation around what the Yogi Adityanath government has been doing when it comes to incentivizing and growing the local MSME and SME entrepreneur base. This is the next in that series of conversations, and tonight we're bringing you a panel with two experts who are closely associated with the entrepreneurial network in Uttar Pradesh. They're going to be breaking down some of the schemes. They're going to be talking about what the way forward should look like for entrepreneurs in Uttar Pradesh, and also answering questions of entrepreneurs who've benefited specifically from a very unique program that the state government has for entrepreneurs called ODOP, the One District, One Product scheme. We're going to be answering questions of entrepreneurs, all of that on tonight's show. Let's dive right in and get started. We have Vinamra Agarwal. He's the Vice Chairman of CI in Uttar Pradesh. We also have Vivek Atray, Chairman ASSOCHAM. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to join us here on the show. I want to kickstart by talking about the industries that Uttar Pradesh is famous for. A lot of them, we have a lot of local artisans who are known worldwide for the kind of artistry and the kind of handiwork and really the traditional craft. Looking forward, given that we've come off the second wave, even if we were to see a third wave in the mid to short term, what perhaps are some of the sectors that you think you would be looking forward to in terms of flourishing?
So UP as a state is indeed blessed in terms of having many natural resources. It's blessed in terms of having a very large and a vibrant ecosystem of MSMEs. I would say perhaps 95% of our state GDP is the MSMEs are a major contributor to the state GDP, and I think it's a very, very vibrant ecosystem indeed. Traditionally, UP has always been very strong in agri and agri-related sectors. And I think that's where UP continues to hold the maximum amount of promise, especially because we've got such a large agricultural base.
Sure.
In addition to that, I think we've also got a very rich legacy in terms of handicrafts, artisans, artisan-based products, etc. Also because of the sheer history that this region enjoys. And I think with all the initiatives that we're seeing in the government, agri inputs, as well as handicrafts and handicraft items, perhaps hold a lot of promise for taking UP ahead.
I think really well said, and I think UP is really well poised. Agri is definitely a sector. I think the services sector can really flourish. We never had the kind of global economy we have today, which is based primarily on the services sector. All the data companies, all the internet companies, they are service providers, they are conglomerates. Netflix is service providing, then Google, Facebook, all of them. So basically, the economy of UP need not depend on heavy industry. It can depend on services, and UP itself is a state with a large populace which can be serviced, and a market which revolves around its own dynamics can come up. So a lot of UP businesses can flourish if the right idea and right mindset and right ecosystem exists.
We're looking at Uttar Pradesh ranking as far as the ease of doing business is concerned. Now, while the state government has been doing a lot when it comes to particularly connectivity, whether it's road, rail, etc., what more, in your opinion, and this question is open to both of you, of course, do you feel that needs to be done urgently when it comes to enabling business and enabling entrepreneurs and SMEs and MSMEs in the state?
This is a subject which I've been very familiar with, and I've seen in the government of India that you see the ease of doing business in India it cannot really be quantified as normally we do in survey rankings.
Sure.
So the new entrepreneur who goes to a government office and tries to get an approval for his small business, whatever is necessary, there are intangibles which we cannot, find on a kind of survey form. So the person who enters that office is obviously going to go through some kind of trepidation, harassment, and he goes into the unknown. It's like going to a police station almost. But there are offices and there are states and there are best practices which have much improved that feeling. And I think the small entrepreneur basically needs to be allowed to flourish. So UP will do very well to allow the ecosystem to grow on its own, keep out of the way, no Inspector Raj. And also when somebody is coming to the government for something, the key factor is how the communication is with that person. So somebody responds, somebody guides and handholds that person. A great idea which I can suggest also is appointing relationship managers on behalf of the government.
Yeah.
Because banks do that, but the government typically is impervious. So if they can do that, appoint some youngsters to handhold the entrepreneurs, that would be even better. These are some of the steps to be taken.
I've been it's no secret, and I've been a very vocal advocate of the fact that UP has perhaps the best policies across the country when it comes to industrial development.
Okay.
And I think some of these policies have been extremely well drafted, and I think they provide exactly the right kind of policy framework that is required to bring industries in. I think the real challenge is really in the implementation of these policies, and that's where UP has traditionally been a laggard. And I think that's one area where we definitely could see a lot of improvement. I think it's great to have good policies on paper, but until and unless we see them actually being implemented in letter and spirit, it doesn't really make life easier for entrepreneurs. That's number one. Secondly, I think what a lot of entrepreneurs and what a lot of existing entrepreneurs in UP, particularly those who are working out of the industrial estates set up by institutions like the UPSIDC, one complaint that they've been having is that while UP is going all out to attract new industries and bring them in, they're saying, what is it that existing industries get from the state? Because you want to ensure those existing industries also exist, flourish, and grow while you're bringing new ones in. And I think one area where a lot of improvement is required is in terms of the basic upkeep, the basic facilities that are available for entrepreneurs in many of these industrial areas. We are talking about developing many common facilities under the ODOP scheme, etc. But I think if the existing industrial areas can also be looked at in terms of where basic facilities can be improved, I think it's going to really add a lot of impetus.
This is a series of interviews that we've been doing as part of the special series, the State View Uttar Pradesh. And we kick-started really with an interview with the Minister for MSME of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Siddharth Singh. And one thing that he told me in that interview was that he was very excited about the power of the rural economy in Uttar Pradesh when it came to really, the growth that Uttar Pradesh is poised to see, as well as, the benefit for small businesses when it comes to contribution to the GDP, etc. My question is, I would love to get your thoughts, gentlemen, both of you, in terms of how you see the rural economy in Uttar Pradesh possibly growing more. What would you like to see? What would you like to see more on the part of the government, etc.?
It's a no-brainer. We are seeing this phenomena of unbridled urbanization and migration of labor to urban centers. And I think everybody agrees that this could be very, very dangerous in the medium to long term. Especially if We continue to see this differentiation between India and Bharat, where India is the part of the economy that is urban, that is more developed, and Bharat is the economy that continues to be, still in a developing state for a long time. So I think it's a no-brainer that rural economies definitely need to be bolstered. And I think industry has a very, very big role to play in terms of doing that. Now, how can industry do that? I think if there were incentives that were provided to industries for moving to rural areas, I think especially with easy land availability, easy processes to facilitate transfer of land, etc. I think industry can play a very, very big role. And the moment you have industry working in a rural economy, I have seen how those economies have transformed overnight in terms of facilities, access, services, the general parameters on which societies are ranked, etc., etc. So industry has a role, but I think the first step has to be taken by the government in terms of even nudging industries to relocate to rural areas, and of course providing them the necessary facilities, services, etc.
I'm going to agree with Vinamra on the part about setting up large units in rural areas, which give a lot of employment and impetus in that area. But I would like to add 3 points. Firstly, I think it's important for us to encourage rural entrepreneurs who set up tiny businesses. They can be called tiny because they're much smaller than even the SMEs that we identified. So basically, these businesses could be just, if the bandwidth is there, they could have internet-based businesses. They could have service delivery options for the rural area there itself, home delivery, this, that, something which is very basic, but doable even in villages. And I also think the second thing is that we create infrastructure. There is a national optic fiber network, which is known as NOFN, and which has gone to certain areas, but not all over India yet. We need to strengthen it in UP so that there is more fiber available in connecting the rural youth. Because the rural youth is often, even in education, they are lacking bandwidth. And I, being a motivational speaker, I have spoken on video most of the time, but one particular website goes only audio because they cater to the rural youth where they don't have bandwidth for video, which shows that, we really need to create that infrastructure. And thirdly, I think we need to help the cottage industry. So, people with handicrafts, with the chutneys and jams and things like that, especially the women entrepreneurs. And we need to market them. We need to organize them. We need to have cooperatives which work better, and then brand them and take them forward. There is a great example in Himachal Pradesh, which I can name. It's called Bhuira. And Bhuira is selling jams and chutneys and tomato and this, that of superior quality, which goes all over North India and comes from the villages of Himachal. So that's really a good example.
I just want to add on to one point, Sananda. My point about bringing industry into rural areas also stems from the fact that when you do bring industry in, there is a spin-off effect in terms of developing a huge amount of local industry in terms of ancillary support for a lot of these large industries. Let me give you an example from UP itself. The previous governments in UP have placed a huge amount of focus in developing the Bundelkhand area as a solar destination for solar parks, for solar energy generation, etc. And these were areas that nobody ever ventured to. Interestingly, what you're seeing now is that with the large mass of solar generation plants that have come up in the Bundelkhand area around Jhansi, etc., what's happened is that those hubs have developed pretty much as small hubs for people who are servicing such plants.
Gentlemen, we have to take a quick commercial break. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on this very special series, ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow presents the State View, Uttar Pradesh. specific to ODOP and its role in enabling growing small businesses. What would you have to say?
Yeah, actually, these policies are probably among the best anywhere possible in the world, say so. On paper, on computers, they look brilliant, they are well drafted and they are well crafted. But if you look at it at the ground level, the person who is to receive that benefit, the implementation is the key. I have, with my experience, seen pockets of excellence. Whenever a scheme is announced, some one district will do amazingly well, will get an award also. And then you find about the rest of the 90% of the districts are not really matching up.
Sure.
So until and unless this percolates to the last mile, and the person at the village level or the official at the block level is able to implement it, and that too, if there are bottlenecks, we need to keep revisiting the scheme. It might seem glorious sitting in Lucknow or wherever, but you might really get a reality check in some of the districts or in ground realities. So you really need to see whether after 3 months or 6 months of the process, whether it's going as per what we envisaged. And I think that reality check can lead to modifications which are necessary. And we keep on altering it and being flexible. But really, we need to train the ground level people to be more receptive and better implementers. And if that is done, then half the battle is won. Even if the scheme is shoddy, the implementation is better. That is better than having a brilliant scheme which doesn't get implemented on the ground level properly.
ODOP has been a good scheme. The focus is you try to take the local handicrafts that places are best known for. In UP, traditionally, they've been very well known for. So brassware in Moradabad, locks in Aligarh, knives in Rampur, chicken work and Zardozi work in Lucknow, etc. And you try and see how you globalize them and you standardize them and bring them onto the global platform. So I think from an intention perspective, the scheme is brilliant and it can help a lot of people who've traditionally been engaged with these crafts, and yet at the same point of time, they continue to face a lot of challenges in their working. Again, I think, as Mr. Atray said, implementation is critical. I myself know of several entrepreneurs who do work in these sectors who, despite the scheme, talk about challenges in terms of getting the financing, which the scheme promises them. And now there could be many reasons for this. I'm not going into them in detail here, but I think it's very important to have a transparent mechanism to ensure that the scheme delivers on what it promises, and B, perhaps a transparent mechanism to collect feedback from entrepreneurs who are facing challenges and to be able to work on it effectively.
Speaking of financial aid, in fact, let's take in the first question coming in to us from our entrepreneur Irshad from Bijnor district has sent us this question. Go ahead, Irshad.
ODOP एक बहुत अच्छी स्कीम है, उससे बहुत ज्यादा फायदा होना चाहिए था, जैसा कि हमें बताया गया था, लेकिन अभी तक एकमात्र जो उससे लाभ हुआ है वो ये हुआ है कि नगीना के आर्टिजन्स को सब्सिडी बेस पे लोन आसानी से मिला है और हमने भी लोन लिया है, लेकिन दुर्भाग्यवश कोरोना की वजह से बिजनेस हम उतना सर्वाइव नहीं कर पाए जो हमें उम्मीद थी कि हमें पैसे की सहूलत मिलने के बाद काफी बढ़ जाएगा.
Vinamra, maybe I could come to you on this one. What would you like to tell Irshad?
Irshad, the challenge that you've mentioned is a very real problem. I think you're not alone in facing that. A lot of industries, a lot of small and medium and large industries continue to face this challenge. My first advice to you would be, please try and conserve cash wherever you can. It is absolutely, absolutely important that you conserve your cash flow towards ensuring long-term sustainability. I do know for a fact that there is an emergency credit line guarantee scheme that is available where you can take on additional loan, additional financing, which is supposed to be collateral free. But again, it does entail a component of interest on that loan. So therefore, you probably need to be very careful in terms of deciding where you want it and how you will be able to service that loan going forward. Other than that, I think right now it is extremely important to just conserve cash as far as possible.
In fact, why don't we take in our next question? This is coming to us from our entrepreneur Abhinay Gupta from Kannauj district. Abhinay, what is your question?
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री के योजना के तहत हर एक जनपद में एक पोस्ट प्रमोशन काउंसिल कमेटी बनाई गई जिसकी मैं भी एक सदस्य हूँ, एक आमंत्रित सदस्य के रूप में माननीय डीएम महोदय द्वारा मुझे आमंत्रित किया गया था। उस पर किसी तरीके की प्रगति न होने की वजह से इस योजना को और पंख लग सकते थे, जिस पर माननीय अमित जी से विचार करना चाहूंगा कि इस पर विचार करिए, जिससे छोटे उद्यमी भी सीधे एक्सपोर्ट कर सके और उनकी इनकम में वृद्धि हो सके।
Mr. Atray, maybe you could take this one on.
I can answer this one, and I think it's very important that what DGFT has envisaged should percolate down to the real grassroots. So if we have international tie-ups for entrepreneurs from rural areas, for handicraft sellers, for cottage industry, for small industry, we should actually see that the through and through benefit goes through. For example, if there is a district level official who is involved in reaching out to these local entrepreneurs and then connecting them with the state government, and the state government is connecting them with DGFT, then that district level official is the key, because he's the cutting edge. And that person, or he or she, has to be trained, counseled, prepared, and made to realize the importance of the scheme. So if that entrepreneur is getting the hand-holding from that district level official, then that district level official will be able to take forward that plan. For example, supposing there is a subsidy or an incentive for a particular type of handicraft, which is relating to clothes or fabrics, and there is a small person who is designing these kinds of garments in a district of UP, then the district level official has to make sure that he prepares a project report with the help of that person's inputs. But that district level official has to be trained enough to be able to prepare something which is possible at the state level and the DGFT level. They will approve it only if the documentation is good, if whatever material is attached is perfect, and then they will go forward. So this is my advice. Train your people well so that you can implement the scheme in toto. And then the entrepreneur who is asking the question will be one of them who will benefit. So that is the way to implement it.
Mr. Atray, Mr. Agarwal, thank you very much for your time here on the show. Completely out of time on this episode of the show. But if you have any feedback for us, as always, we love hearing from you. Our contact details coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.